Hello, welcome to the Genlock team, whatever the fuck this ends up being called. I blew all my jokes last night on the stream.
Yep.
I am Genlock and loaded for this. I'm mediocrity.
Beautiful start already, boys. This is gonna be a
But
winner.
can my mind control chair do this? It's me, high powered. Okay, I'm done.
I'm
done.
I'm starting off watching a couple episodes of a show that literally stated that they cast people because they want diversity to be seen as normal by only liking the British actors. I'm Dude, what the heck?
And as of yesterday, I am a year older, but apparently I've gotten less wise because I've agreed to this. I'm Coop.
Because you have agreed to this? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. You cut out on the most important word of your
Jesus
intro.
Christ.
Sorry.
Yeah.
In my mind, he said, "I fucked this." Which
That is actually better. Let's go with that.
Yeah, let's go with that. All right, cool. Yeah.
So we're starting a new podcast.
For
the
those,
format.
Yeah.
For those who don't watch us.
Yeah.
And don't know, we do a Ruby podcast, but since RoosterTeeth has graced us with another show that isn't Nomad of Nowhere,
Yeah, exactly.
or Red versus Blue, we decided not all of the normal members are on. The members of this podcast is probably going to be just a state of flux for most of the time, and we don't even know how often we will be doing these podcasts. It all really just depends on the viewership and the interaction. So
we're gonna get that cross-pollination of media platforms going. We're gonna synergize. We're gonna do all sorts of jargon. It's
okay,
gonna be
Paul
great.
marketing.
It'll be very blue sky.
Yeah.
And will benefit the investors.
So, I feel that there's a question that's been aching in my head, and this is kind of a primer for everyone here, and also the listeners too, is, the question that I want to ask myself and everyone here is, and if you want to email us your answers, you can at rubyandbeyond@gmail.com, is, who is Genlock for? What is the audience for? Are these for the people who are like, I think Gundam's really cool, but I don't like anime? Is this for like the people who are interested in mecha? Or is this for like some of the people who are like, oh hey, they've got like cool power armor bodysuits, so like Halo? Or like, oh, I like generic sci-fi, or hey, David Tennant's in it and he's being David Tennant. I mean, the Doctor.
Is it for the Chinese investors that are going to make a cheap mobile game out of it? I don't know.
Yeah. So
it's definitely for them. At the very least, they're part of it.
Like for us to get our juices flowing before we go into the first two episodes, which PSA, from my understanding, you have to be a first member to even watch this series, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or will it be?
Okay, so the people who run the show are dumbasses. We have a very long,
through legitimate means,
documented history of them not knowing what words mean, and so we won't actually know if this is a true first exclusive like Day 5 was, or if it's taken the Ruby model of being first exclusive for that first week that an episode is out until Saturday. Like, we literally won't actually know until then, because they don't know what words mean sometimes.
We'll tell you in the next podcast, guys.
Yeah, we will let you know with news, or if Toon Radio gets ahead of us and gives us the info, we will bring that up.
And mind you that this is all subject to change at any point, even after we get...
that could change.
Kind of like it did with Nomad of Nowhere, which was supposed to be RoosterTeeth website exclusive, but then they just started dumping it on YouTube because nobody gave a fuck.
And for reference, Toon Radio is our news correspondent in our Discord. He just always knows everything that's happening in the world of the internet. The internet, basically. Yeah, anything animated, he basically knows everything that's going on as soon as it happens. Which is why you should join our Discord. High-powered. I plugged the Discord for you.
There are other reasons.
There are other reasons, exactly.
Go getting into them.
Well, you can bask in the memes of Coop here, the God Emperor of meme kind.
So back to my thesis.
Back to the
statement.
question. Yeah, who is
Yes.
Genlock 4?
Genlock 4.
So
I think the best possible way to answer it is to just say what it is that appeals to each of us individually about Genlock, and then if you happen to have similar taste to us, you can go from there. I don't know.
That's actually a
So,
great idea. I like that.
What initially sold it onto me first was I was able to get my hands on the first episode through a mega upload link. Floof told
An
me that
entirely legitimate mega upload link.
yes.
I mean,
And Floof told me that a mech pilot was dissolved alive by a swarm of nanobots, and my favorite thing about the mecha genre is just the terrible ways that pilots can die.
Yep.
Because you're in this big metal box, but there's still a small little squishy humie on the inside that could be easily killed.
And to see
so-
all the terrible ways that a mech pilot can die, you should watch Gundam Thunderbolt. But
Yes,
this
this is
might
very
be good
true.
too.
But that was the initial primer. But for me, my opinion is this is the mecha show for people who don't like anime, from a show that is clearly inspired and rips off and borrows from other anime and other genres. So that's my 2 cents for this thesis primer statement.
All right. For me, my initial draw to the show was because we were going to podcast it, and I just like podcasting shit with you guys. And I honestly expected to absolutely hate this show at first. I really did. I definitely like it a lot more than I was expecting to. We'll get into the nitty gritty of what I like and dislike because it's it's in the middle right now, but it's not as awful as I was expecting for sure. What I liked, the fight scenes to start off, like that first fight scene, that fighter with the fighter jets or whatever you want to call those things that are like kind of
The hover planes.
yeah, those
Yes.
like F-14 slash
I have a
F-35 slash F-22-ish kind of looking hover planes.
Yeah,
I have a soapbox for that.
I'm
later.
sure you do. I know you already
Yeah,
mentioned this to me, but
media
it-
has an eternal grudge due to that, unfortunately, against this show.
that looked good. I really liked the first scene of the show. I was like, this actually seems well done, and they seem like they might be concentrating more on characters with this show rather than. I just like character-driven stuff, and that's what it felt like in the initial part of the show. And I'm not usually a mech guy, but because it's kind of tied into the US/world stuff and not just like pure anime mech, I like it. It's kind of for me because what High Power said, I'm a guy who I don't like mech in the traditional sense. I tried to watch Gundam, hated it. The only mech stuff I watched before this was Gargantia, or Susei no Gargantia, or Gargantia on the Virtuous Planet. It's a really, really rare.
Yeah.
It's not
That's
that.
technically Super Robot.
It's
Yeah,
not really.
okay.
It's not really mech. So that's what I'm saying. This is kind of mech, kind of not.
We should actually kind of get into that. Okay, so for those of you not versed in the mecha genre as I am, there are two
branches.
that diverged. Okay, so you have Real Robot, in which they try to make everything make sense and have like a semi-scientific sounding explanation for stuff, even if it is bullshit. And then you have, on the other hand, Super Robot, in which it's a fucking robot, guys. Look at it go. It's killing monsters. You like seeing robots kill monsters, don't you? That's what I thought.
Okay, then Gargantia was like Super Robot, but also
Yeah.
kind of not because the focus wasn't. It was a lot less mecha than a lot of other mechas. There were like literally one mech for most of the show, and then at the end there was a second mech, and that was it. It was
And
much
here's the
more
thing
character
is-
driven, and that's why I liked it. So that's why
That's-
something I like about this is that stuff, and I like that it's like kind of just military in general. I like that instead of it just being like pure anime mech kind of looking stuff, because like I said, I tried to give Gundam a chance and I couldn't get into it. So
Well, okay, so here's the thing, and unfortunately, I'm going to explain to you why it is that you are wrong about your impressions of Genlock.
Sure, go for it.
No. Genlock is actually very, very firmly in the real robot genre, and not just because of what I said earlier about trying to make the mechs make sense and all the technology and stuff. It is very heavily political, it would seem, and and the political and war and military aspects have always been defining features of real robot versus super robot, where super robot, it's more usually about, oh, there's aliens coming down and we have to kill them, or there's some sort of monster that comes out of the sea and we have to fight it. That's like what that's all about. Okay, and
and to add to what he's saying,
show.
like for example, in Gundam, mainly the main premise of all the plots is like, us people who don't live on Earth are sick and tired of being told what to do by the people on Earth, and that's like pretty much the basis of the storyline in like all of Gundam. So there's that. And,
the basis of like, and unfortunately for people who live on the sides, they decide that fascism is a superior alternative. And so they decide to make Xeon. And when Xeon doesn't work, we make Neo Xeon. And when Neo Xeon doesn't work, we make Neo Xeon. This is a real thing, by the way. I'm not even fucking with you.
Okay, so hold on. Just to clarify, one, I tried to watch Gundam like over 10 years ago, so maybe I'd give it a second chance. I can't say for sure I didn't like it, but it's sort of like how I didn't watch anime for like 8 years at least because I tried to watch Dragon Ball Z and I fucking hated it when I was a kid. Right. And then I discovered Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I know isn't really an anime. I don't give a shit. It's fucking amazing. And then I started, and then
weebs like it. It's an anime.
And then I watched other anime afterwards, and so I realized I was wrong about my initial impression. So, but my point was not about
you weren't really though, because most anime is trash.
And Avatar does have a better claim to being called an anime than Ruby does.
Oh, absolutely, that's true. But my other point was that it's not about which type of mecha I felt that Genlock was. That wasn't my point. My point was that I like that it's what I liked about Gargantia was it wasn't super in-your-face mechy, and at least my first impression about this was that it wasn't super in-your-face mech. But then in the second episode it felt a little bit more. I'm just trying to say what my initial draw into it was that in the first episode there wasn't even really much.
Something to be said of a slow drip of the setting and stuff like. A lot of the complaints, I want to kind of address this as a little bit of an aside. A lot of the complaints of these first two episodes have been that we haven't gotten enough information about the setting. That's bullshit because we're 2 episodes in. That's all I'm going to say about that. They're going to probably explain it later. If they don't, if there's like some very pertinent information that just never gets explained until way too late, then I'll be right with you guys on that. But like for right now, you can leave that alone. That's really a dumb complaint.
All right, so
as long as they explain enough by the end of the first season, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
If they don't, then I'll be mad. But as of right now, I'm fine with it.
I'm gonna give my answer because I didn't get a chance to. I guess.
Oh yeah. Fuck it.
Sorry.
So I have a really long history with the mech genre. I watched Gundam Wing as a kid because it used to come on right after Dragon Ball Z. So I kind of grew up watching that, and I've watched a few other seasons of Gundam, and I've also watched like other mecha series. Like I actually just watched Evangelion last week with Floof. The Floof.
Did you make it all the way through?
Yes.
And did you watch the end of Evangelion as well?
Yes.
All right, then you're good. You now have anime street cred. I dub the media weeb rank the first.
Now you gotta get into the Fate series.
No.
I watched Fate Zero. Tried to watch the next one.
If you watch Fate, just watch Fate Zero. Because the other Fates.
It's funny because a lot of people will say like, no, you need to watch this other one first because Fate Zero was made after that. And then I'm like, then I tried to watch the other Fate. And I'm like, or one of the other Fates. I forget which one it was, to be honest, because I don't care. I was like, nah, this is trash. I'm glad I'm just gonna stick to watching Fate Zero and not watching any of the other Fates.
Fate Zero is the only halfway.
So I've never been really jazzed about the mech genre. Like there's a couple mechs I like. Eureka 7 is one of my favorite animes. Um,
Excellent surfboards for those who don't know.
yes. But in a lot of the mech anime, I end up really liking. The mechs themselves are my least favorite part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like with Eureka 7, my favorite parts are Eureka herself, Renton, Anemone, and Dominic. And to a lesser extent, Holland and Miss Tahoe. And the rest of the Gecko State crew. It's a lot of good characters in that show.
That's a much
Eureka
better
7
way.
did have some pretty sick mech designs, though.
That's
I'm
a
not
much
gonna
better
lie.
way of stating what I was trying to say. That's kind of what I was trying to say. Is like the other mech series I liked was Gargantia, and I didn't care about the mech part of Gargantia except for the AI that lived in the mech because he was an interesting character. So the stuff I liked was the stuff between like Amy and Leto and stuff like that, and all the characters on the ship and the situation that they were in. That's what I liked about that show. I didn't really care about the mech part.
So as far as Genlock goes, when they first announced it, I kind of just rolled my eyes and was ready to basically ignore it. But then they would not shut the fuck up about it, and
that's how they get you.
There
That
was
is how
an
they get you.
article every month almost.
And then they started pulling people off of Ruby to work on Genlock, and they started throwing all this money at Genlock, and they started putting in all these big name, like Oscar caliber actors into Genlock, and then they started like putting more money into the marketing, having like the sellouts at Collider writing freaking think pieces about how it's going to change anime forever, and it's going to be this transcendent experience, and it's getting like freaking commercials on daytime television now and stuff. And I'm like, oh, you want to be taken seriously after Volume 5? All right, kid gloves are off. I'm coming in hot.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to talk about it, because it's like they are really serious about this. And one of my answers was, I kind of feel like they want this show to be for just about anybody who would watch animation in general, because they're like they're going after everything. They're like trying to connect it to anime. They got Michael B. Jordan, who's one of the hottest actors on like the market right now.
And he's also a weeb, right?
He is apparently. Yes, he is. And
he's
and
apparently
they got
financing a portion of this.
High powered. He is a black man in his 20s. Of course, he's a weeb.
They got David Tennant, who's one of the most popular and, in my opinion, greatest actors of our generation. Well, he's older than us, but like our generation loves David Tennant, and I love David Tennant.
Millennials.
Okay, they got Maisie Williams from fucking what's it called, Game of Thrones, which I don't even give a shit about, but I know what that is. And their marketing has been like so varied too, like. They've been on the daytime.
You're forgetting the biggest actor in these first 2 episodes, Blaine.
They got. We'll get into that.
I don't even remember his last name, but no, I was actually going to make a Dakota Fanning reference because she was like my original celebrity crush, because she's like almost exactly the same age as me.
They also did like weird advertising. Like they got Alex Myers to do a video on this. And for those of you who don't know, Alex Myers is like a YouTube series reviewer. He hit it was like 1 year took him to get 1 million subscribers, and he reviews like usually live action TV shows and does animation around that. I think he's funny as shit. I don't really care if he's smart or not. He's funny, and they got him to do a video on this, which is like weird. It's kind of a random thing. He's not what I would expect them to go after, I guess is what I'm saying. So that kind of shows that they're really trying.
He's got that like $1,000 subscriber base, though.
I think it's just they're trying to hit all the different categories of people that could possibly watch this show. That's what my impression is of him doing, of them going after him to do that and paying him to do that.
But yeah, what I mean by I'm coming in hot though isn't I'm not coming into this to hate it, even though there are things that I am just ready to tear it apart for. But those elements haven't really been a thing in these first 2 episodes, so I'm not even going to talk about that.
Exactly.
What he means is, if they want to be taken seriously, he's going to take them fucking seriously,
I'm going to take it seriously, and
there's going to be a no holds barred.
Even at my most vociferous when talking about Ruby, through my honest looks and stuff. I am very kind to the series. I am very understanding about the limits of their production and the limits of their time and the limit of the talent and the animation and writing staff. Like, I'm pretty considerate about those factors. Genlock does not get that courtesy.
That's
No.
right.
Because if they want to spend millions, are we gonna guess millions on these actors?
I'll guess that.
absolutely.
Instead of paying their animators a wage capable of making the frame rate go more than 12 frames per second,
Ooh.
then
Oh yeah.
then I'm going to rip them apart for that.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, fellas. Media has finally gotten an excuse to use 10% of his power. Like, but okay. I'll just yeah. But yeah. As for me, like, it's kind of what media said, but it's more of a morbid curiosity angle off of that, to where I'm like, oh, they're spending millions of dollars on this thing. We'll see how that works out. Either way, you know, is it going to be successful? Is it going to be a train wreck? Either way, I get entertained for a little bit, and I get to fucking talk about it with some sweet ass dudes online like this.
No homo.
That's what
Alright,
we do.
there
That's why
So
I'm here.
let's
It's
get-
like if it's
yeah,
good,
let's-
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
good, great. I get to talk about a show I like. If it's bad, cool. I get to rip it apart with you guys.
Mhm.
Fun. Either way, I win. I don't care.
So let's get into the first
get in
scene
deep
of
into
this
the
of
deepness.
episode 1, which
So,
is
There's two complaints I want to address right off the bat. Just if you guys want to contribute. you can.
yeah,
Wait, no.
You've got 5 minutes.
Is this a soapbox?
Give him a soapbox, damn it!
Soapbox?
Here
There
you
we
go. We're ready to go.
Is that an actual soapbox that looks like a shoebox?
It
to
is
me?
a shoebox, but I mean, come on. Who has a
the
fucking
reason being-
soapbox these days?
Yeah. The
You
reason
should
being,
if you have shoes.
Yeah.
Actually,
The
I
reason-
mostly wear
yeah.
boots, so I don't really
Mm,
have a soapbox. I mostly wear
so
stuff like this.
Well,
Nice,
did you at
nice.
least have a shoe shine box then?
A bag, actually. It's just like a cheap plastic bag full of stuff.
Uh,
Yeah. So,
I'm literally wearing Darth Vader slippers right now. Hold on.
like a boss.
I've been thinking about investing in shoe shinery equipment due to the fact that I have to have my core frames
Arguably one of the
looking good.
best hiking boots you can legally own.
Nice.
Mm.
As opposed to illegal.
It's
okay.
very ugly, so
So-
that must mean it's a good hiking boot, because that's
It's
pretty
not
much
in regs though.
So anyway,
that's how you
getting
judge
back on
hiking
track.
boots.
Yeah, getting back on track.
Oh yeah.
I want to address these two things because they're the two biggest complaints that have been leveled at the series since they started showing previews for it at the beginning of every single fucking episode of Ruby Volume 6.
So many episodes.
And there are two criticisms I want to address up front. I want to discuss it, get it out of the way, and be done with it until like the season finale. Like, I don't want to have another discussion about the frame rate or the quote-unquote stolen designs.
Yes. I mean, okay, to be honest with you guys, you know, slipping into a new season, it's often good to just lube it up a little first, and that's what we're doing here. So, as far as the frame rate, that is excusable, but I'm not certain, due to the fact that I don't fucking work at Rooster Teeth, whether or not those excuses hold water.
They did say it is a stylistic choice, but then again, so were the black silhouettes in Volume 1.
I don't
Here's the
buy
thing.
that. That makes me more upset, actually.
yeah.
If they had
Here's the
just
thing.
admitted that they fucked up and they'll fix it
Yeah.
next time, I'd prefer that, to be honest. Because
I-
it was
I
no.
mean,
You
I-
can maybe get away with that with the silhouette thing, but frame rate is not a stylistic choice
Yeah.
in nearly anyone's
It's like when
minds.
video game companies
well,
said
here's
that.
the thing too:
Yeah.
is whatever
Bullshit.
whatever the frames chug, they chug. Especially in episode 2, there's a
Yeah.
few moments where the frame rate chugs
Yeah.
bad. For
Yeah.
episode 1, it's running pretty smooth.
Yeah, my
For the
complaint
most
is-
part.
Yeah, my complaint is how inconsistent it is, and there seems to be no rhyme or reason for when the frame rate starts to chug.
Oh, like
There seems to
Miles' voice acting in this
Yeah.
series? Oh wait, I'll get to that later.
Yeah, there seems to be no reason for, like, if it were like, oh, the action scenes are going to be in 12 frames per second and the dialogue scenes are in 30 frames per second, I could get that, but it's so inconsistent that it actually that's the problem. It's not that it's not the stylistic choice, it's how they are implementing that stylistic choice. It doesn't add anything to the plot or characters or themes or other aesthetic choices, which this is just
So it's probably not a stylistic choice.
No,
Rooster
it's
Teeth.
probably
Yeah.
not. That's
Yes,
why
fuck.
I don't.
that leads me to believe it's not actually a stylistic choice. It's lazy. It's I hesitate to use the word laziness, but that's the only way I can
Cheapness,
Yeah,
incompetence.
cheapness of Rooster Teeth's animation staff. Now, I have heard on the flip side that this is actually better than a lot of 3D animated shows that have the same issue, and I cannot speak on this because I have not
Okay,
watched
so-
Dragon Prince. I have not seen Dragon Prince, but from what I've heard from
Dragon
other
Prince does
reliable
have
sources,
frame rate issues.
Dragon
Okay,
Prince
I haven't watched it yet either, but I want to. I heard it's actually good.
It is actually.
I have watched it.
rather
And
it-
Dragon Prince does chug more than.
Yeah.
Is it a good show? Because
Genlock
I've thought
does.
about watching it. Because Aaron Ehas
It's-
is quite good.
It's fine. It's perfectly acceptable. I find
It's
nothing
not
offensive about
amazing. It's definitely better than okay. It's good.
All right, so
It's
worth
got-
watching, but
It's
I'm
a kids show.
gonna be more
it's-
excited for the return of Star Wars: The Clone Wars than I am for this. Then
I would say this,
Yeah.
dude. Take
You
your
may
phone
be.
into the shower, and whenever you're showering in the morning, just watch it in the shower while you shower. That's how I watch all my shows on Netflix. Is I just sit there, wash my hair, and watch it some Punisher or watch it some South Park. Best
It's
way
a
to
method-
binge watch any series.
It's a method that is both simple and clean. Interestingly enough.
Lol. All right.
So yeah, so that I'm putting a pin in that. I don't want to have these law. I don't.
It's not gonna stop me
don't
from
want
watching
to
it.
be-
I noticed it, but it's not gonna stop
Because-
me from watching it.
The benefit of being, I don't know if I would call. I don't know if Raymond and I are on good enough terms to call each other friends, but we are definitely acquaintances. The best part of being acquainted with that crew is that they oftentimes have their stuff up before we even have a chance to record, and they've already released their reaction and discussion on episode 2 of Genlock, and it is the most disliked video on Raymond's channel.
Oh, this is gonna go. This is gonna go great for us then.
Hey.
Reason being is okay. So it was Raymond, Fat Man, Tom. They're all good. They're really solid people.
Yeah.
They have really good criticisms, and they're all being very fair to it. Then you have Floof, who was coming in hot with the same talking points he's been rehearsing for the last 6 months. And then someone
No
who
offense to
I have
Floof.
Floof,
I
you're
love
a beautiful
the- I
creature
love
of
the
nature.
dude. I love the dude, and he at least knows what he's talking about. The other person they had on there, and he's the reason why that video got so many dislikes. Was just saying all the same stuff Floof was, but like a broken record, like not even
Who?
getting example. They call him Toppy, I think. I've only seen like one other video, and I haven't interacted with him much on the Team Frostbite Discord, so I don't know the dude. I'm not going to talk shit on it. I don't know him,
But
but
unfortunately, Toppy, you are a
Yeah.
punk ass bitch on the record. Come fight
Oh
me.
no!
See,
Oh,
this is
no.
why I like
I'll
Coop.
beat you
Coop's
about
like me. Coop's not afraid to like just throw out disses and shit and just.
I
Call
haven't even
names.
seen the thing, so I don't know. I know even less of who this Toppy dude
Well,
is.
if you watch our older like Ruby podcast, like I'm always naming people that are like fuck you, and they're like no.
yeah. Oh, God.
Jake One Man Band.
Mm.
Yeah, that reminds me. That you just reminded me of one podcast where you went on a fucking tirade against
Oh,
Jake
hell
One
yeah.
Man Band. I ended up cutting.
Oh,
And
God.
I ended up cutting it from the podcast just because
Yeah.
I didn't want
But
everyone
but
on Team Theory to hate
yeah.
our guts.
to kind of rein this in a little bit more, that's what were we hitting? The frame rate issues.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't want it. I don't want all of our podcasts to turn into that.
Like I said,
right.
I noticed it, but I don't really care.
As a moderator, I will
Yeah,
get it out of the way now, and I will stamp down anytime they say. I will mute people.
Yeah. So anyway, to the next thing we obviously need to hit after that is
The stolen designs.
appropriation
Now,
of certain intellectual properties for the purposes of making a new and improved version of them that is Genlock.
Some of them are obvious, is the thing. That's kind of the issue. So, okay.
Spider tanks.
Sombra, the spider tanks, the Metal Gears
Avatar
that
control
everyone is
pods.
driving. Yeah. So, having a really creative, unique style with all your designs is always a positive. The absence of that is not necessarily a negative. It's all about, does it fit? Like, my problem with the mech from the end of Volume 6 wasn't that it was a giant mech in Ruby, it was that it didn't look like anything else that we had seen from Atlas. Like,
it belonged
in
Warhammer 40k.
Yeah,
That's where that mech belonged in.
Yeah, the older mech from Volume 2
Just slap a cathedral on top of that
Yeah.
sumbitch.
The older mech from Volume 2 was literally just the Mantis. It was actually, like, I'm pretty sure the same model as the Mantis from fucking Red vs. Blue / Halo, just recolored. And I didn't have a problem with that because it looked like everything else from Atlas. Whereas the giant mech in Volume 6 did not. That was my complaint.
I'm also gonna add, let's try to keep comparisons to Ruby to a minimum in case.
Yeah.
Let's assume we have people watching that don't watch Ruby. So I would advise to not make Ruby comparisons the whole time. Just saying. That's an apt comparison if people get the reference, though. Just want to throw that out there real quick.
For instance, the reason why I think this is going to be a problem with Genlock is something that Gray said in an interview where he's like, "Oh, they think they're going to think that, oh, all of our mechs are based off of this, and then 3 episodes later we're going to completely change everything by bringing in new mechs." And I'm just going to throw this out there because it's kind of an issue in this first episode later on. Metal Gears and Gundams do not look like they belong in the same universe. And here we are with a show that has things that are obviously inspired by Metal Gear and things that are obviously inspired by Gundam working together side by side, and it looks like the amazing world of Gumball because of that.
And also, just going to throw it out there, they failed to rip off the greatest of all mech franchises, BattleTech. Not a single Mad Cat.
True.
Yeah.
Not a single King Crab or a Griffin.
Or an Atlas.
Yeah, an Atlas would have been. But sadly, they're not there.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story, boys and girls, is that if you're going to rip something off, rip off only one thing and make it BattleTech.
Yeah.
Then you'd probably get away with it because no one knows what BattleTech is.
Doesn't
Harmony
help.
Gold certainly did.
It doesn't help. Well, the Sombra thing, that doesn't help them either.
Yeah, like they're also throwing in things like Overwatch into the mix, and it's straight like, I'm not jazzed about the way almost anything looks in this show.
Hey, is it in the future? Then it's in the show. That was basically the idea behind all of the ripoffs.
That reminds me of the meme. High Powered and Coop were here for my reaction to it, but dude was not. So there's this meme I saw. It was a Harvey Birdman reference, but it was Genlock and Halo. And it was like the Genlock characters like, "We come from the future, the far off year of 2068," and then Master Chief's like, looks at his calendar, it's 2600, and that comes from one of my favorite Harvey Birdman episodes, which is the one with Birdman and the Jetsons, where the Jetsons are like, "We come from the far off year of 2001," and Birdman like looks at his calendar and it's 2004.
That's the thing for me is like, it's 2068. Like, why did you only jump that far forward? None of all this. Even right now, the show just came out less than a week ago, and I'm already thinking that is way too soon for all of this shit to happen, for all this technology development, for all these political changes to happen. Like what? How?
Florida is apparently just gone now.
Well, that's fantastic. I have no complaints about that because Florida's horrible.
I mean, I have no complaints. I have no general complaints about losing Florida, but it's just an unrealistic.
I have some good friends in Florida right now.
It's just a pipe dream at
Yeah.
this point.
It's
It's not going to happen in the next 50 years.
The thing is, it just doesn't make sense though. All this is not believable for it to be. They needed to go at least to 2150, 2200. Honestly, at the very least, for this to even be slightly believable. And that's
I don't really care about.
I don't care that much. It's just more that's like just a little thing that's like, why are you guys so dumb that you couldn't think of that? It's so easy.
Just do like the XX and then two normal numbers.
20XX. That's fucking.
Wait, you know that Melee meme?
Yeah.
Dude, Melee. I can't wait for Genesis this weekend, dude. Melee's gonna be sick. 20XX is the future.
So I mean, it's gonna run into the same problems as 2001: A Space Odyssey and the Jetsons, which both came out around the same time in the 60s, where they were like, 50 years in the future, we're gonna have like freaking intergalactic empires or whatever was going on.
I think the good news about this is that they're just it's gonna outdate itself so quickly it won't even matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So. Again, it's not a big deal. It's just more like it bothers me that how are you so dumb you couldn't fix such an obvious thing?
And then we could ask each other, did you fight for the right side of history or the Reich side of history?
But okay, like we've gone over the concepts, we've gone over all that stuff. Let's get down to the nitty gritty, boys. Okay, the episodes themselves. So to summarize, episode 1, Chase Blackman, the most mild-mannered black man in the history of black men.
By the way, can I just laugh at just how hilarious it is that the first black character we're introduced to, and the main black character of the show, is named Chase.
They might as well named him Chase Schuyler, okay? They didn't, but they might as well have.
Hold up, it's not that ironic, okay? Let me hit you with some stats, boys. You see, despite making up 13% of the...
All it was missing was, you see, Jimbo.
My favorite thing to rein this back on track a little bit. My favorite thing is like on the wiki for this show is fucking hilarious already. I gotta tell you guys. It says Michael B. Jordan as Julian Chase, a Vanguard pilot and quote unquote all-American guy from Brooklyn who helps form the show's team.
All-American is code for boring, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why do you need to say that? He is a white guy who has black skin. Like, you don't need to tell me he's an all-American guy. He just looks... He's clearly a Boy Scout. He's clearly, like, supposed to be the brave, tough, capable pilot. Like, you don't need to say... Why do you need to say shit like that?
The only thing missing from that description was red-blooded.
Yeah, exactly. Which they weren't going to do, not Rooster Teeth. Not a company based in Austin, that's for sure. And by the way, we are going to get political here, because the show specifically stated they wanted to get political. And I'm going to touch on that in the voice casting shit, too.
Yeah. Well, we can get down to that once we get more.
We are, in this podcast, we are right-leaning libertarians at the least. So if you want to click off right now, go ahead.
Yeah,
just so you know what you're getting into. I think Media and I are the most mild, and we're right-leaning libertarians. So you know where you're getting into with this podcast.
I will say for the first scene of this, which is basically the Rooster Teeth is flexing their muscles with these types of scenes. They do pretty well generally across the board. So in summary, the first scene is that awkward time whenever you have to bring your girlfriend over to your mom's house and like your sister is there too, and your girlfriend automatically betrays you your relationship with her for a relationship with your younger sister. So that's always a fun experience to have if you've ever been through it.
Yeah, and now you have to marry her, basically.
Yeah, you bring once you bring over a girlfriend and her sister and your girlfriend become best friends, she's basically a part of the family at that point. Yeah. So you might as well put a ring on it.
Yeah, happened to with my sister and my brother-in-law. Like, my sister became like best friends with his family members, and then he just he had to deal with it.
I mean, yeah. In fairness, like, so to be,
But-
we start off kind of negative as we always do with our podcast, but this
Yes,
scene was
yes.
great. I loved this scene. Like, this exactly what Hypar said. This is where Rooster Teeth flexes their muscles. This is some of the best. This is like scenes like this are some of the better parts of RWBY and some of the other stuff that they've done where it's just normal, like just basic character interactions. It seems like something so obvious and easy, but a lot of even talented shows or talented people can't do that well, and even RWBY doesn't do it well sometimes. But this was good. Like, this is what like got me like, okay, I'm gonna watch this show. Like, I'm enjoying this already. The awkwardness between them felt real and natural. I liked the mom character. Like, it's just enough, momsy stuff without being over the top awkward, like where you can tell they're trying too hard. It all worked, and I liked the cutaway.
It's stuff a lot of people can relate to.
It's very relatable, and I like the way they cut away to reveal that they're just in a hologram and all that stuff. Again, it's not like it's not overly showing off. It's like, oh, that sucks. It's more about, oh yeah, they can't come home right now. They're stuck,
Right.
in fighting or whatever. Like, that's more of a relatable thing than it is, just trying to show off the technology. They integrated that well.
Yeah.
So that first scene just worked very well. I feel like.
So the one thing I would like hit on that, and it's not really a problem with that one thing in particular, but it's just Michael B. Jordan's acting in this is not Michael B. Jordan levels of acting.
No, it's
and
not.
I think it's because of his inexperience as a voice actor, and like there's very little that can be done about that. Maybe if he gets some better direction, he'll improve. But for these first 2 episodes, he's wooden.
Yeah, I think it's more of a direction thing because Dakota Fanning runs into a lot of the same problems in her scenes, and she's been in a lot of different animations and stuff. Like, she's much more experienced, and she's coming off even more wooden and flat, which makes me believe that it's because none of their dialogue is particularly terrible.
No. That's
and,
actually one of the.
So it really makes me think that it is a direction issue.
Mm-hmm.
The script on paper looks good.
Am I allowed, based on this? May I go on my voice acting tangent, or should we save that?
Give it just a little bit.
Okay. I want to address something about the family because I don't know if I'll get a chance to talk about this again later on. There's a lot in this first episode I really, really liked, especially in the first 2/3 of this episode. There are things that I will even go as far to say that I loved, like genuinely was like really freaking into it. And one of the things was this family dynamic, and it worries me that it's going to ruin the rest of the series for me because this is the standard I'm going to be holding all these other episodes to. And I've already seen that a little bit with episode 2, which I watched several hours later. Like I watched RWBY Volume 6 finale and the first 2 episodes of Genlock dropped on the website at the same time. I watched the RWBY finale first, then I watched the first episode of Genlock, and then I took a nap and did some running around, went to the grocery store and stuff, and then I came back and watched episode 2, having already like let the first episode get smoked up
sink in.
Sink in, I think. Bask, whatever.
You 360 no scope 420 blazed up the video in your mind.
So
there we go.
Perfect depiction. The fact that the family wasn't addressed in the second episode concerns me. Because my biggest complaint with this show thus far is a lack of reason to care. It's not too late. I'd say if stuff like that isn't addressed by episode 3 or 4, I'm going to really start complaining about it. But I just want, because I was thinking about this and I see a very good potential of the series because we don't know whether his family made it out of there. It leaves it very vague, we need an answer to that, because that can give Chase a lot of motivation that we can gravitate towards, regardless of what their fate actually is. Because either they're alive or they're dead. If they're alive, then Chase's motivation
Maybe
is
one's alive and one's dead. He's got two.
yeah. Like if they're alive, then his motivation becomes make sure that they stay that way. And there's a lot you could do with that. It gives him motivation to really take the fight to the Union, lead this team, become the hero, and do all the stuff that they have set up for that they want to do on the show. And if they're dead, then that gives him motivation to
Die.
to take the fight to the Union, become the hero, lead this team, and you could do. It's the exact same thing, except taking it in a different character arc direction. Because if revenge is the motivation, then you could do what Attack on Titan failed to do and humanize the quote unquote monsters by maybe further on down the line have an arc where Chase is behind enemy lines, like or maybe not Chase, because he's a little he can't exactly just move around.
You could say he's
black.
Oh no,
They
I
spot
can't
him right
say
off the
that he's a percentage of a person. Fuck.
He's 3/5 of a person.
Oh no!
I said it.
There we
Ugh.
go.
I didn't even think about that shit.
I didn't.
And
either
that's
until
Rooster,
High Power-
and that's
until High
Rooster
Power
Teeth's
was
fault
like-
for doing that, by the way.
Yeah.
But,
I didn't think about it until High Power was like, "Oh no, I can't say it." I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna say it."
But anyway, like, yeah, that's cool.
like humanizing the Union, because right now we have absolutely no idea what anyone wants to accomplish in this show, and that's
We have some idea.
a
It's
bit of a
retarded. We'll get to that later. Okay, so anyway,
We'll get to it later. My thing would be, I'd actually be annoyed if his family was dead, because I like
Yeah.
them, and I think it would be a waste, just like they wasted Lindsay. So I don't want them to waste more shit when.
Well, I feel like it's definitely good to also. I mean, I'd like the family to be alive, especially too where like they have to like confront him too, where it's like,
Yeah,
oh, well,
exactly.
this is your son, and he is now essentially a husk. Also, it feels good to be fucking right and have called it.
Didn't you just call it because you already saw it, or did you actually call that?
No, I called it. Whenever
okay.
I saw the first episode, I was like, I'll bet you money that Chase is just a fucking husk in a tube.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit,
we did
You
not
did
the
say
robot.
that. You did say that. God damn it.
Yeah,
I
I
said that in the podcast.
Yeah.
It feels good to be right.
To put into the perspective, at this point, we did not know that intro hadn't been released yet, and the second episode hadn't.
Also, for
Oh,
those
yeah.
of you who don't know, High Powered on our Ruby podcast has a history of calling things, especially
Yeah.
in Volume 4. You called a shitload of stuff in Volume 4. So
But,
maybe your magic moved on to Genlock, High Powered.
Maybe,
move
who
on
knows?
To the rest of the first episode, Chase manages to avoid the bonds of matrimony. They have a little bit of interaction, but all of the sudden, there is an attack
see
perpetrated via...
I'll make the joke. I'll make the joke when we actually get there. I have
Yeah.
a joke ready.
Yeah, okay, so the Union, aka the bad guys, perpetrate an attack on New York City, which is a city. They do it with nanites that kill people by eating them. And
Is it implied that whenever they unleash the nanobots on the city, that they genocided a whole city's worth of people?
I would assume that's what happened. I guess some people got out, but like...
That's the thing.
Not
I
everybody,
didn't assume that
probably.
right away because, okay, the closest thing I have to reference with this show right now that I'm watching is Man in the High Castle, because it's the same kind of thing of where you have the world is basically run by two powers, and you kind of have some people in the middle. That's essentially what the show is. You have two powers fighting over the world, and I don't know if they're trying to genocide everybody or they just want to take over more people, which is kind, you know what I mean? Like that's like in
It's
Man in the
easy
High
to take
Castle.
over more
In Man in the
people
High
when
Castle,
it's
if you're not Jewish or gay, then you just live under the Reich, and that's what you do. You know, if if in this case, I don't know if if they're doing something similar to that. Are they?
And the only
Oh,
reason
no,
why I
it-
say that is there's a bit like in like the fight scene with all the airplanes and the walkers doing the shooty bang bang. Whenever the black fog is going over everyone, one of the guys like holds up his membership badge to the Union, and then
Yeah.
all the nanites are like, "Oh, we gotta yeet away from this guy" as they fly off to someone else.
Here's the thing: is that the Union, from what I have heard, is much more retarded than that. But again, we're going to get into that later.
Okay.
So basically, Chase and his crack squadron of fighter jets go and try to combat the nanites by launching EMP missiles at them. But unfortunately, the gigantic camel robots that the nanites come out of have anti-EMP missile technology in
crab,
them.
Yeah, the crab from Code Lyoko.
Yeah. They, and all the EMP missiles fail, except... So Chase, in
Well, they actually only tried to
noble
fire
sacrifice,
two. They only fired
Yeah.
two. One failed, one worked.
Yeah, they only fired two. One failed.
Well, okay, yeah. So one failed, one succeeded. But the one that succeeded only did so because of the noble sacrifice of Chase Blackman.
Yeah,
he live
and
forever
the one that
Wait, what's his
failed- the
actual
one
name?
that-
Because you're fucking confusing me. Julian Chase. Julian Chase, okay?
And the one that failed got Lindsay killed. So,
Yeah, not happy about that, but all
Wait,
them...
Lindsay is Ruby's voice actor, right?
Yes.
yes, Lindsay Jones is one of my favorite voice actors working for Rooster Teeth.
Her base the Jones family is the best voice acting in Rooster Teeth.
Yeah.
It's Michael
Yeah.
and Lindsay, the Jones family. And Michael hasn't even been in the set. I hope they save him for something that won't be fucking axed in the first episode he's in.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Lindsay now has 2 kids to take care of, so she's not
True.
able to have the workload that she used to.
so anyway,
so
Chase Blackman, having successfully defeated the camels via noble sacrifice, decides that the best thing to do now is to have a 4-year time skip. And
Yes.
so they do.
And
then the
Rusty
show
has to
gets
pull the
worse.
part after that.
Yeah.
So I want to go on my little tirade about this scene.
Yes,
about
please
this
do.
Action
Yeah.
scene. This scene was so fucking cool. I'm going to hate the rest of the show afterwards.
It was really good, especially the fighter plane
this-
stuff.
the-
The
yeah,
fighter
the
plane
fighter
stuff
plane
was
stuff was on point.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Again, like, I'm not a fan of mecha shows. There's a lot of little complaints I have about mecha shows, which I'll be itemizing in future podcasts and as we discuss this episode by episode. Just none of my complaints about none of my general complaints about mecha shows has surfaced in these first 2 episodes, so I'm going to put a pin in that for a later date. But I really love aerial dogfights. It's some of my favorite stuff about Star Wars. It's why I love the Ace Combat games. And it's something it's something we don't see a lot in anime. We get
Actually,
5 or 6
yeah.
mecha show. We get like 5 or 6 mecha shows every single season.
it is
Well, how-
interesting that you bring that up, because this season currently airing is the Magnificent Kotobuki, which is a
Ooh.
show specifically about aerial combat via
Nice.
fighter.
I might have to check that out then.
Yeah,
Um,
it's also 3D animated in a lot of places. The 3D
Alright.
is perfectly acceptable to me. I find it fine. So like if you're jonesing for some dogfight action, you might want to check that out.
Or
Like-
you could just
like,
play
like
Ace
we
Combat
could've got-
7.
Yeah, we could
Ace
have
Combat
got
7 is getting me so hard. I really want to play that.
Oh, I've been having fun with it.
Is it on PC
Yeah.
yet?
No.
Okay, I'm
No,
waiting.
It's not.
not.
It's coming out
If it-
soon.
Okay,
Yeah, if
I'm
it
waiting
is
for
not
that.
available-
I adored Ace Combat 5, the Demons of
I can't play
Rosgreaves
it.
one. Oh my god, that was
Yeah.
so good. That was better than most
yeah.
anime shows, and it was a very good video game too.
Yeah, like this show just through this scene showed me that like it had so much potential to be that aerial dogfight show I've been kind of wanting to see since I was a little kid, but instead it's just another mech show.
We'll always
And-
have SWAT cats media.
Yeah, we'll always have SWAT cats. God, I remember that show. That show was was part of my childhood.
The Radical Squadron, and they
Yeah.
were radical indeed.
How
if not a
does-
squadron, because
that-
it was only one plane.
Please tell me that show was made in the 90s, right? Because that's the most 90s.
It was.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
it was like, all of that is the
88.
most 90s sounding shit since Rocket Power.
It was possibly even more 90s than Rocket Power.
I think it sounds even more 90s than Rocket Power.
Because you see, the thing that makes it even more 90s than Rocket Power is the fact that all the characters, or the main characters anyway, are anthropomorphic cats.
Yeah, even more 90s than Rocket Power, somehow.
So, and
Who defend Mega Cat City from depredations of the evil scientist. What was his name? It was Dr. Cat pun something. I forget
Dr.
what it
Cat.
was. It's been forever since I saw that.
I
Dr.
can't
Catnip
even,
or some shit?
Yeah, something along those lines.
but yeah, I can't even put into words how awesome this aerial dogfight between Chase, Lindsay's character, and all the nanomachines
Razzle, I
and
think
the
was
crab
her name.
from
Yeah,
Lyoko.
Razzle.
Yeah, and the crab from Code Lyoko and all the spider tanks that were walking around it. I can't get over how awesome that was, and how not awesome every other action scene in the series has been thus far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
yeah, that's going to be a grudge that I'm going to hold against it every time there's not an aerial combat. But anyway, yeah.
But to get to said action scenes, we have then the scenario of 4 years later, a group of refugees fleeing Union territory.
4 years later, Chase turns out to not be dead.
He's
because
actually
he did not-
alive
he did-
and
because
still
he did
black.
not- Yeah, because he did not understand that you're supposed to wait until after you have a kid to leave.
Yes,
That was the joke. I was like,
that was.
Oh no!
I figured.
Oh no!
And now I am officially the most moderate of the group here.
Yes.
I haven't even made any jokes like that yet. Jesus Christ.
It just keeps happening. We're falling down the stairs. Oh god.
Don't worry, everybody. Don't worry. I'm gonna make fun of Miles trying to be a Mexican later. We're not just gonna talk about black people here. We're
But,
definitely gonna
anyway.
make fun of everybody in a bit.
Anyway, coming to the rescue of the refugees is a group of super advanced robots that kill all the other super advanced robots because they're even more advanced, I guess. And they end up being able to save this group of refugees. Then they go back, and all of the people who have just been reinforced and helped by these robots are pissed off because they don't know who these robots are, you guys.
Yeah, it turns out they're with David Tennant's doctor character, Dr.
Yeah.
Rufus, I think is his name. That's such a dumb name.
Weller.
And then
everyone's-
Rufus Weller.
Yeah.
They just call him Dr. Weller. Dr. Weller sounds fine.
Dr. Weller does sound fine.
Yeah.
They
don't call him Rufus.
Everyone's just going to be calling him Doctor Who in the fandom anyway.
Oh,
so,
of course. That's what he is. He's just Doctor Who, which is great. I'm not going to complain about that even slightly.
Yeah.
So
he's a lot of fun. He's the only one in the show that is really seemingly giving it his all. Him and whoever was voicing the mother in the first scene. Did a
I
really
also
good
like
job.
Macy Williams' character, actually.
Oh yeah, I like.
Can
her
I go
too.
on my voice acting rant now, please? You keep just bringing up the voice acting.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
go.
just-
Do
All
it.
right.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing. We touched on this earlier. Julian Chase, played by Michael B. Jordan, not voice acted well at all. And I'm not trying to talk shit on Michael B. Jordan because I didn't even like Black Panther that much. It was fine. It just wasn't great. But he was easily the best part of that movie. By a country mile, he was the best part of that movie. He did a very good job in that movie, I feel like. So there's clearly something wrong with either the casting or the direction or something because he didn't sound good. Dakota Fanning sounds like the mom from The Incredibles, and that's not a good thing because that's what if there's a complaint about the first Incredibles movie, it's how weird her voice is. Like she keeps sounding like this the whole time. Why does she sound like she's talking out of the side of her mouth all weird?
Here's the thing, Liz. Actually, my aunt kind of sounds like that in real life, so I can't really.
It's like female adenoids or something.
It's It's like,
yeah, but
I don't
your aunt is like in her 40s or 50s, assumingly.
yeah, 50s. Yeah.
Dakota Fanning is my age. She is 25.
She should not sound like the mom from The
Yeah.
Incredibles, who I believe is played by somebody even older than the mom from The Incredibles is supposed to be. Mrs. Incredible or Elastigirl, whatever you want to call her. She's not. She shouldn't. That's awkward in both of those movies. I don't like her voice in those films. I like her character, don't like her voice. Dakota Fanning sounds weird as shit in this show. It bothers me every time she's on screen. It bothers me every time she opens her fucking mouth. She doesn't sound like she's the same. She should be dating Chase. She sounds like she should be his fucking math teacher or something like that. Another issue.
Hey, what if he did that?
I don't know. She's clearly not designed to be that old.
Yeah.
Another issue, Lindsay Jones is a very, very good voice actor, and they fucking axed her in the first episode. That was a mistake. They should have used somebody shittier for that character. Then we get back to, so even more of an issue to me is why most of the voice acting in this show doesn't sound good. I don't like it. I don't notice that stuff as much as other people tend to, but I'm noticing it here. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Golshifte Farahani as the Iranian person. Asia Kate Dillon and Koichi Yamadera and Blaine all sound so freaking wooden. So does Michael B. Jordan. So does Dakota Fanning. What is that, like 6 characters I just named right now that sound wooden as hell?
And those are all essentially the main cast.
And those are the main cast. The only 2 people from the sort of main cast that actually sound like they have some personality are David Tennant, who, by the way, is fucking carrying the series after the first scene. After those first 2 scenes, after 4 years later, he's the only entertaining thing about this show.
Has David Tennant done VA roles?
I don't know,
yeah.
but he's
all the time, all the
Okay,
time. He
yes.
was Scrooge McDuck in the most recent Duck.
Okay, so he sounds fantastic. He's basically just playing the Doctor, which is fine. If anybody's going to complain about that, you really shouldn't, because it's the best part of the show so far. He's funny. He's got personality. His delivery for everything is incredible. He's David Tennant, who's a fucking amazing actor, okay? The other person I like so far is Maisie Williams' character, Cammy. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, yeah, she's the stereotypical young, little hacker person.
No.
Yeah, I understand that's a fucking trope, but at least she has some sort of personality, because all of the other mech pilots so far, even Michael B. Jordan's character, Julian Chase, they're all so blah. All of them are just some degree of blah. Like, the Japanese guy who was demoted from rank of sergeant to kitchen duty on grounds of insubordination. Yasmin Madrani, who Chase says, oh, once you get to know her, nah, she's always like that, implying that she's always a bitch and moody. And then, who's the other one? Asia Kate Dillon's character, what a surprise.
The Scottish lady?
No, that's the
wait,
that's
no.
the Russian. The moody Russian. They're all some degree of moody. They're 3 of the same characters. The only difference is one's supposed to be Ukrainian, one's supposed to be Japanese and doesn't speak English, and one's supposed to be Iranian. But they're all exactly the same. They're all just sort of moody, like kind of negative, like, oh, I'm kind of an edgelord military characters. Like, what the fuck? Why'd you make all of those 3 characters exactly the same? And they're all voice acted exactly the same. They kind of have accents, but who gives a shit? They sound the same. There's nothing interesting about them.
They could have made
Also-
Scottish chick just, like an off-brand diva. Could have just.
That is
made,
what she already is.
Japan-
Which is why she's
Yeah.
one of the few characters I like, because at least she's distinct from the rest of the cast.
So,
At
so
least
a
Macy
lot of
Williams.
it,
At least Macy Williams, who actually I thought was Scottish. Turns out she's not. She's just an English person doing a Scottish accent. But at least she has personality. At least I'm interested in her character to some degree. Obviously, she's supposed to be the naive character, because you see how scared she is when the attack starts happening. I like that. At least I'm interested to see what's going to happen with her. I don't give a shit about the rest of the characters. Oh, what a surprise. The Japanese guy is clearly grungy and likes rock music. Japanese people love rock music. That's not unique, okay? We all know Japan loves rock music. That's like an obvious thing. It's not interesting, okay? That's the thing. And I think it's partly the writing, and it's partly the casting, and partly the directing. Because I don't know.
I think it's way more the directing than
Because
the casting.
those three characters, Madrani, Roman, what's her name? Romanician, Romanician, and Kazulida. Or is it Aida? I don't know. They all sound like the same character. I can't tell them apart at all. At least you can say Maisie Williams' character was a knockoff diva / Sombra or whatever, but I like her because at least I know who the fuck she is. I remember which one she is. And I like David Tennant's character. So yeah, that's...
Maisie Williams isn't the knockoff Sombra character. She's the knockoff
They're
Ragdoll
both
character.
kind of knockoff Sombras because they split Sombra into two characters because Romanesian looks like Sombra, but Cammy,
Okay. See,
Cammy
don't
McLeod,
play Overwatch, so I don't know.
I did play Overwatch and I watch Overwatch League. So Cammy, the Scottish character,
Is Hacker Lady.
is Hacker. So that's also
Yeah.
Sombra. So it's like they split Sombra into two characters. That's why it's kind of weird. They gave the traits of Sombra. They gave the stuff that Sombra does to one character, and they gave Sombra's look to another character.
By the way, McLeod is having a Scottish character whose last name is McLeod is like having an English character whose last name is Smith.
Yes. Also, I just get the reference to Fox McCloud. I hope that's the reference because I love Fox McCloud.
No, it's not. It's McLeod, basically, is how it's spelled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. And
then,
one more complaint is Miles Luna as the kind of Mexican sometimes character.
Hey, well, here's
And
the
as
thing,
a Mexican, I am
though.
allowed to talk about these things because...
Well, as a Mexican
white
who
man,
lives
I
in
don't
Texas,
give a fuck.
I will say this right now. If you live in Texas and your family's been there for a few generations, there's a good chance you got some Mexican blood in you. I can guarantee you that right now, because cowboy culture conquers all.
Are Texans really white? The answer, no.
Yeah, no, they're not.
No, we're not.
Don't forget, Mexicans like guns too, okay? So, anyway, the problem is not that... I don't know how Mexican Miles apparently is. The problem is just he is mostly just sounding like kind of like Miles, and then on a couple occasions in the second episode, he just sounds kind of Mexican. And it's really weird. I don't understand what they're going for with that. If they want the character to have a Mexican accent, I don't care who they cast as it. They could cast somebody who's a third black, a third Pakistani, and a third Scandinavian. I don't care. If they can do the accent, they should be able to do it. I just don't get why Miles is like kind of going back and forth. And again, I think it's the direction that seems to be the problem here because there's talent. Even Miles, I'm not trying to talk shit on Miles because Miles has done pretty solid voice acting. Whatever you think of the Chorus trilogy in Red vs. Blue, I liked him as Felix. I like him as Jean, and I really like him as David in Camp Camp. So Miles is a solid voice actor, even if he's not like the best, whatever, he's good. But he's kind of like, every once in a while, he'll just sound sort of Mexican, like he's trying to sound Mexican. And then he just goes back to sounding normal. That speaks to all the other characters who I said. Three of the mech pilots are just the same character, and then Michael B. Jordan sounds blah. I got two characters who I like the voice acting from in this whole show right now. That's it. That's not a good sign. When they have this much talent, that's not a good sign.
So here's I will say this kind of in I'm not really in defense of the voice acting, but I will say in defense of parts of episode 2 and also for episode 1. I like how they're able to establish basically within a few lines between Miles' characters and Michael B. Jordan's characters that like they're actually friends and they have been friends for a while.
That is true.
Especially in the second of like they do a really good job of just being like I mean, sure, it's like it's sure they're talking to each other like people who've like known each other for a while and might have went through like boot camp together or whatever. But
they probably didn't. Like, well, if we're being realistic about it,
I was gonna say even I know that.
Okay,
here's the thing.
They spent a lot of time with each other.
I'll get into this a little bit.
Yeah.
There's nothing militarily in this show. Chase Blackman is in flagrant violation of several of the rules against fraternization. One, his girlfriend is also a part of the military. That is very frowned upon, even if you are of the same rank. They can't technically do anything to you. They can do shit to you, if you know what I mean. But also, if he's like really good buddies with his ground crew is probably enlisted. Chase Blackman is probably an officer. That's not, if they're going out drinking on the weekends, that's kind of weird. It's not something that's typically done. So like, yeah, you can have like a bit of a camaraderie with them and a little bit of a buddy relationship at work, but if you're like going to the same bars together and shit like that, that's kind of a no-no.
Yeah, that's.
And
I have a friend who's on an aircraft carrier, and he's an enlisted man, and he reinforces what you say, that he just talks shit on the pilots mostly, and they just don't interact with each other. They don't like each other. At least in his experience, I'm not saying this is universally true, but yeah, they do not know each other. They do not talk to each other. Yeah. They do not really know who each other even is.
And to be fair, pilots are dicks. Like, you shouldn't like them.
That's basically what he said.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the first episode, like, and then they do the flesh.
I want to add something to Dude's complaint about the voice acting. This wouldn't be so much of a complaint had they not marketed this show entirely on the strength of the cast.
Yeah.
Like, the one thing everyone is getting shoved down their throats, and it's not just people who watch, like, Ruby and other Rooster Teeth content, or even people on YouTube. Again, like, they have actual, like, billboards and actual, like, TV spots for the show. And those, I saw on Twitter, and it's not just people that I like, care about. It's the people who create the show themselves are retweeting people, sending them tweets about, like, hey, I was watching The Office and I saw this TV spot for Genlock. And the thing that trailer that was being played in The Office was, like, just the cast list, basically. That's what people are going to be coming to see. And when they see Amateur Hour, it's going to turn a lot of people off instantly.
Yeah.
And
like, you got the boomers coming in being like, hey, Timmy, I saw that Michael B. Jordan character is going to be in one of these new interweb shows. Might as well just fucking... I liked him in Creed and Creed 2, the successful sequel to Creed. Maybe I'll check it out there.
Yeah, and he doesn't sound good. And he's done well as an actor. It's not to say, like, they got bad actors. You know what I mean? Like, Michael B. Jordan, I liked him in the stuff I've seen him in live action. I love David Tennant. I haven't even seen Maisie Williams stuff, but I know that Aisha Kate Dillon's in, was it Orange is the New Black or something like that, I think? Is that the thing that she was in? That, like, got her famous?
I don't know.
I'm on Wiki.
No idea what the
Billions, Billions and Orange is the New Black. So that's a name, definitely.
Like a great cast does not a good movie or TV show make. You want to know a movie that had, like, an actual, like, really long, extensive celebrity cast movie, castings? There's a movie that came out in 2010 called Valentine's Day.
I remember that.
I thought about it. I pulled up the IMDb.
Lots of big names.
Yeah.
Entirely forgettable film.
Yeah. Jessica Alba, Kathy Bates, Jessica Biel, Bradley Cooper, Eric Dane, Patrick Dempsey, Jamie Foxx, Jennifer Gardner, Topher Grace, Anne Hathaway, Carter Jenkins, Ashton Kutcher, Queen Latifah, Taylor Lautner. Like, these are all really big, famous people. Julia Roberts, Emma Roberts, Shirley MacLaine, George Lopez.
George Lopez, people.
That is one large head.
This man had a comedy.
This movie is kind of pretty terrible, and definitely forgettable. It came to my mind because that's kind of my go-to example of it was kind of my first exposure to the idea that, like, it doesn't matter who you got when you utilize them terribly. Yeah. It's going to be a terrible product no matter how much talent is on screen.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
anyway,
the thing is that, like, David Tennant is just probably didn't even give him direction. They said, "Be David Tennant, do whatever you want, and you can, and he'll be great." And he is.
Yeah.
And the only other character I feel like is showing any emotion, or at least showing any voice acting ability, is Macy Williams, who they probably just said, "Be quirky and Scottish," and she's being quirky and Scottish. That's kind of the same thing. Hey, David Tennant, you're quirky and Scottish. Be quirky and Scottish. Mason Williams, be quirky and Scottish, and it's working. The other issue,
But anyway,
the other issue is that they specifically have talked about. I know Gray has specifically talked about this. We're gonna get into politics real quick. That they chose the voice cast based on the fact that they want diversity to be seen as normal. Well, then why did you make 3 of the characters exactly the fucking same? Just because they look different and they have different names and they're supposed to be from different backgrounds, and then you go ahead and make them all equally boring? Like, you're doing a really shitty job of that. Like,
yes, you see, despite being 13% of the population,
Oh no! Stop!
boring
No!
characters
No!
make up 50% of the
Oh,
characters
no!
on Genlock.
no, actually, boring characters make up more than 50% of the characters on Genlock. It's like 75%.
Podcast.
I am already accepting the fact that this is going to get demonetized.
Oh
So, I
no,
don't
we're
care
gonna get
anymore.
demonetized.
I've only got one more 13% joke in the pocket, and I'm going to save it for later. Don't worry.
Oh no. Oh god.
I don't think we're ever going to top that. Chase is now 3/5 of a percent.
Oh no.
But anyway,
Ugh.
to move on to, because this like kind of, well, that's basically all of the issues in regards to the casting.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on.
It's just
Where we
it's
are
a,
the- in
it's
a-
a big
in-
problem based on the show. That's
Yeah.
why I had to go on such a big rant on it.
But
Let's
anyway,
actually,
to get back to the plot. So, people are angry that they don't know what these mechs are and who these mysterious individuals are that helped them. And then, bam! It turns out Chase is actually still alive and also a hologram now. And everyone is in shock. All of Chase's friends from back when he was a douchebag pilot are now being like, "Chase, you're still alive! Holy shit!" It's
Oh
been
no,
4
he's gonna give me another wedgie again.
Yeah, and so then cut to the next fucking episode, wherein it is revealed that Chase Blackman has unfortunately and tragically lost most of his
You're
limbs.
still confusing me. Holy shit, what this fucking name? God damn it. I gotta go back to Wiki every time you say that.
I'm never referring to him as anything different, so you're just going to have to get used to it. But anyway, yes, he's lost most of his limbs and probably also his genitalia. And he is currently housed inside of a tube where he controls the
He's
super
in a back to
advanced
tank,
robots.
okay? He's in a back
Yeah.
to tank.
A back to
Yeah.
tank from Star Wars, which you've seen.
Yep.
And so you must like this show.
Unless you're Socklicard.
Yes.
Or
anyway.
he's in the sarcophagi of a dreadnought, which is what I
Yeah.
would prefer.
Well, that's not even the same thing because they're not even actually in the robot, which is kind of lame. Yes. So it's revealed that these robots operate via a mental uplink of source, which is called Genlock, and only.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
yes. And ironically enough, Genlock is very hard to achieve. Only 13% of the population
Oh,
is
no!
capable of achieving Genlock with these robots. And so,
What was it actually though? Like 0.0001 or
Yeah.
something like that? It's like 1 in a million.
Yeah, it was like
It's
it was like
pretty
a
low
million
percentage of the
or something like that.
population, which is probably important to know. I also
Yes.
like one thing I do like, a nice little touch they did is that they did he achieved Genlock, well, the first phase anyway. Like, I like how
Yeah.
they're at least dropping that little hint now instead of just explaining. Like, I like that. That's a good little writing touch. Thank you for doing that.
and here's where we get into some issues with the plot, okay? And this is going to be something that may or may not be a problem. First phase Genlock seems to imply that there are phases of Genlock above the current phase that they're in, and it might seem to me that this would end up being used in the way of a typical anime power-up, where under a lot of duress at some point in the story, somebody achieves Genlock level 2 and goes super Genlock.
It was you, Mama, the entire time. The AT field was you.
Yeah, and enters Berserk mode or whatever it is that Phase 2 Genlocks consists of, thereby allowing... Now, like, this is not super bad, even if they do it, because they've already hinted at it, like you said. It's not like just blue. So, no, I can't call them on that.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. When they say phases, they're talking about phases of testing, aren't they?
Is it? Is that what it is?
It honestly could be, or it just could be like the connection, like with
well,
how the,
I don't know. They seem
Pacific
pretty
Rim
damn
with
connected with the fucking robots right now. So how do they become more connected than they already are? The only thing that I can think of is that Phase 2 would somehow increase their performance in some way. That's the only idea that I can come up with. But also...
unless it's something like permanent, it's the only other thing I can think of off the top of my head.
That's like... That could be it too. And honestly, not a bad option for Chase.
No, it's not.
You got...
yeah, he could have like a quadruple twin-linked Magnum hydraulic dong.
As opposed to Zero Dong, which is what he's probably currently operating with. So...
Pretty sure, yeah. He was like almost at like the naval level where he was cut off. So he was cut off pretty high, it seemed.
Yeah. So anyway, in episode 2, we're introduced to our cast of characters, the only interesting one of which is David Tennant and Macy Williams' character. Then we get a little bit of forced drama from Chase's unreasonable and irrationally acting ex-fiancé, who doesn't get that being in probably a coma for a little while, combined with being inside of a Bacta tank, combined with being in a top secret military experiment, means that you probably can't make too many phone calls. And she just decides that she's angry with him now.
Yeah, this is a problem I have that happens. Like, this is like such CW drama bullshit going on in the show, and I'm really disappointed to see that happen, especially when I liked that at the beginning of the show their relationship was portrayed as quite healthy, and it wasn't like a bunch of drama bullshit. It was just like, hey, normal relationship stuff, like, oh yeah, how do you do with your family? Oh great, yeah, I love you, let's kiss. Like, I was so happy to see that in a Rooster Teeth show where like Ruby is just teasing shit, like fucking anime baiting the whole time, and then Red vs. Blue is a nightmare, but then they go in and do this like CW, like, oh, let's manufacture some drama bullshit. Like,
it's almost
so annoying. Like, it's not interesting. Like, she's just wrong. That's like all it is. She's wrong. Done.
I will say this: portrayal of women as irrational cunts who will be bitches to you even when you've gotten all of your legs chopped off and also probably your dick.
And one of your arms. One of your arms.
We are now definitely demonetized.
Yes, but it's an accurate portrayal. That's all I'm going to say. 100% true to life for all women. Take that to the bank.
See, here's the thing. The problem that I have with it is that I disagree with that based on my own personal experience. So it's like, why do you...
too. I don't actually think women are irrational cunts who would be like that. But it does come off as making the character seem that way.
Yes, and that's the problem. It's like, why do we have to have this? Why do we have to manufacture fake drama? Why can't she just be like sad and I don't know what to say? Like, why can't we have something like that? Like, that's much more realistic. Like, let's be honest. She should be ecstatic to see him. There's no clue that she has a current relationship right now. So what other should she... I can't imagine feeling anything other than just relief and happiness. And that's not what she's... Like, what the fuck? Like, that's a disservice. Like, why are you writing that? It's dumb.
But who knows? Maybe it will be quickly resolved. And
but even then, why'd they have to do it in the first place?
They could have a lot of hot VR sex. To make up
potentially, yes. We don't know the level of virtual reality technology in this show. We don't know how in-depth it really gets. You could get in quite a bit of depth with it, potentially.
Oh man!
But anyway,
I feel that is kind of a point though, where it's just off the bat, she's like, no.
No, I'm going to be a bitch today. Fuck you.
You're not
Yeah.
even here. That's the other thing. You're not even here. It's like, how is that his fault? He saved your fucking life. It was very clear in the first scene, or the second scene, I guess, of the show, that she would have died from the nanotech if it wasn't for him lighting off the fucking bomb or whatever he did. He saved her fucking life. She didn't even thank him for that yet? What the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
either she is you're trying to portray this woman as a fucking psychopath, asshole, bitch, douche, or you're just bad at writing and you fucked up. And you're not trying to do that. You're trying to make her seem like, oh, she's an independent woman with feelings. She feels bad. But that's not realistic.
But speaking of psychopathic asshole bitch douches.
Oh yeah, the typical white guy.
Yeah, we get later into the show. We get to the actual action of the meat of this episode, if you will, wherein a spy has infiltrated the ranks of the Genlock candidates. Okay?
Union spy in the base.
Yes, he has infiltrated their ranks of this group, which has been told several times that they are one of an extremely small population of people that can actually achieve Genlock. And his plan, his master plan, is to achieve Genlock, steal a mech, get the fuck out of this base, and get the technology back to the Union. And it only fails because he's fucking retarded.
This post was sponsored by Genlock Compatible Gang.
Oh god, this episode is so bad as a result of this alone.
Me and I actually talked about this for a little bit too, also before the podcast started. And it's like, so from this, let's put ourselves in our shoes and attempt to rationalize his thought process for a little bit.
Thought process one: I'm going to infiltrate this group of people who are the only people in the world capable of achieving Genlock. Thought process two: I'm going to hope to fuck that I can achieve Genlock.
Okay.
And I'm still going to leave my body behind while I steal the mech. Like, what the fuck? Literally everything is wrong with that plan.
So no. But
I can kind of rationalize some things because
I can't rationalize anything.
Yeah, okay, because he was there for the Genlock compatible talk.
Yes.
He was not there, however, for a Genlock compatible talk before he started this mission, so he didn't know that until he was already there.
Mm-hmm. So he's just like, well, fuck.
And then again, we don't know much about the Union.
And how fanatical their special forces are.
So for all we know, it's like if he leaves there empty-handed, he could just be killed anyway. So might as well give.
Yeah, but we don't know that though, so it doesn't make sense.
Might as well give the whole Genlock compatible thing a try. My biggest issue with it though is that the whole point of these holons is that holons. Oh god, hollows would be better. The whole point of these holons is that they're remote controlled. The second that mech leaves that room, he's getting a bullet in his head.
I know. What the fuck?
Well, here's the thing.
Like that. Like, did he not know they were remote controlled either?
The way they explain it is that you are uploading your consciousness to the mech, meaning that it isn't really remote controlled. You're controlling it from within via your consciousness that has been uploaded to it. So, theoretically, you don't need any range of transmission or anything. There would just be a computer running inside the mech that would be housing your digitized consciousness on its.
It's just like Ghost in the Shell. If you're Ghost,
yeah.
They didn't establish whether or not like you need to be. I think they basically did establish that you should be alive to make this happen. Because isn't that important for Chase?
Well, you have to be alive to upload your brain to it.
Ah, okay.
But
once you're there, you're there. I think is the thought process at least.
And then once you come back and dock in whatever like USB port they've got for the mechs, they just download your brain back through that fucking HDMI cable into your body.
You might need like a
USB
3.1 for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was planning on sacrificing himself, his body at least, to take the mech, basically.
Yeah. And so he would theoretically, again, get this mech back to Union territory. They would reverse engineer it and make their own Union version of the Holons, which would be painted black and be spiked because evil.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And then they would fight, and the inferior what is the it's some stupid name for whatever the good guys are. The
Polity.
The Vanguard. The
Well,
Vanguard
they
the good
work
guys.
for the Vanguard, but they're under the control of the Polity.
Polity is here's a joke for you. If so the Polity are supposed to be the UN of 50 years in the future.
Except
they're
gayer.
They're even in the UN building in the New York scene in the first episode. If they really wanted to be an accurate portrayal of the UN, then the Union would have been part of the Human Rights Council.
Yeah. Well, we don't know about human rights in the Union. It could be very progressive there.
Well, I was going to say it actually seems pretty accurate because they're supposed to be the UN
case,
and they're doing absolutely nothing and losing. So that does seem pretty accurate.
I have very not nice things to say about the UN. Not on this podcast, but just in general.
Does
in
anybody
general
have anything nice to say about the UN?
It's like that picture.
Kamala Harris does. And so does Elizabeth Warren.
I just thought the whole point of them was to be
think of.
useless.
But anyway, as far as unfortunately, we cannot be like, you know, hey, the polity sucks and the Union is great, because I have heard things about what the Union is entirely based off of that is pretty fucked up. Okay?
Do you have a source for this? Do you have proofs?
Well, Toon Radio has.
Then you're right. You're probably right. Yeah. All right. So
yes.
what are these newses that you have hearded?
Apparently, the Union is meant to be. How should I put this? Political opportunists that are operating under the idea that United States history exists in a cyclical way wherein a crisis happens, and these are people who have decided to form an entire political organization with its own military and technology specifically to take advantage of the crisis period and gain power for themselves.
So they start their own revolution and then take over.
Yes, and they're okay, how should I put this? They predict, based on this theory from historians who have written a book about this, that...
Are we quoting the Turner Diaries now?
No, I very much wish I was, but unfortunately, I forget the names of them exactly, and I would have to scroll up in the thing very far in order to find it. But it's like two dudes' names that they have weird names. But yes, they wrote a book about this. That is what the Union is based off. The Union's entire ideology is based off the idea that these two dudes were right, that they are capable of predicting when these cycles occur and at what point in the cycle they are at, and that they are capable of taking advantage of that. And that is the entire ideology of this thing, supposedly.
That sounds really dumb.
Yeah, it really does, and it makes sense that they would have spies like that one dude, if that's the caliber of people that are believing in and invested in this particular ideology.
That's also not very interesting either.
It isn't. It's like
it's a boring conspiracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's lazy Tom Clancy writing.
Almost.
I would rather just have like they're powerful and they want to take over the world. Like that's better than this, to be honest. Because then
they do want to take over the world, but they specifically want to take over the world
in a dumb way,
via
though.
this in this
That's
weird
the way.
method.
That's why I say that's
because-
worse, though, because I'd rather than just say we're going to take over the world for reasons. I'd rather it just be reasons than that, because then
And it's
I don't know.
it's a really weird thought process to me, because like you would think that the idea would be that these people are taking advantage of political unrest in order to ascend to this thing, but they're the ones causing the political unrest right now.
It sounds like a weird cult or something, and that's
it's
not something that you should base on for like full-on villains of a story. That doesn't.
Well, weird cults can be full-on villains of a
Yeah,
story,
but like not something like
not
this where they're like capable of taking
like
over
this.
like the world.
Yeah, this is like more of an Illuminati in the shadows thing,
Yeah.
of like a weird shadowy cabal that not like people that form an entire army and government based around this sort of idea.
Cults, when
This
they're
is-
bad guys, are just able to convince dumb people of stuff, and they could take advantage.
Yeah.
Not the whole world. You know what I'm saying? That's the problem here.
And that's now again, this is very subject to change. This might not even be true.
Let's
they
hope
might
not.
retcon or rewrite it. Like this is the only word that I've gotten about this, though. And it's from a reliable source.
It is a reliable source, definitely. Unfortunately,
Yes,
for this.
even though I do make fun of Toon, because I make fun of everybody, I do love you, Toon. You're the best guy ever. And I hope you continue giving me these weird things and pieces of information whenever I ask you to, because I demand it of you.
Okay, so back to
Yes. Back to the Union itself. If that's all we got on them. That's all we know. That's it. You know, if you don't like that, well, too bad, because we're not getting any more until maybe in the next episode, if even that. What we know is that the Union is pretty convinced of this, seeing as how they've gone kind of whole hog with creating giant swarms of flesh-eating nanobots and stuff like that. You know, you don't invest that much money into stuff if you're not pretty sure that this is going to work out well for you. And like, honestly, they seem to have a pretty good shot. Like, those refugees were pretty much fucked. If I was a Union, I'd be placing my bets on the Union if I like Holland's notwithstanding.
Things are going fairly well for the Union so far. I think that's part of the point.
Yeah. Maybe there's some sort of... Okay, so the one thing I would say is that the Union needs a face. We need to have a Char Aznable for the Union. There needs to be...
I feel that needs to be happens in like in episode 3 or episode...
Probably. Like, it's gotta come soon. We're gonna need somebody that we can attach this whole concept to, instead of just nebulous organization with spider robots.
Yeah. It's fine that we didn't get it now, as long as we get it soon. That's basically my perspective on all of this stuff. I know a lot of people have complained about not getting enough information.
Yeah.
The first time I watched it, I complained about that more in my head. The second time I watched both episodes, I didn't mind it as much. I'm kind of more on Coop's side of this.
And here's the thing. I didn't actually, and this is another thing that I'm going to bring up as a little bit of a problem with it, is the spy dude, stupid spy guy from this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was going to be that dude. Like, I thought they were going a totally different direction with it. I thought he was going to get in the thing and then, like, somehow escape and, like, super clever and stuff like that, and I was going to wow me, and I would that's amazing, and then he'd take off whatever holographic mask and we'd see his real face and they'd be like, this is the main dude. But that didn't happen. That was kind of disappointing to me.
Well, that's the big reason why the second episode was worse than the first episode. One, it's we get even more wooden voice actors, and we get the new team that is all the same except
Spy Guy was actually pretty good. I liked
Spy Guy
him.
wasn't bad, but then he's dead already.
Yeah.
And he was an
also-
idiot. So it's like, you know. Which is also funny because he was voice acted by Blaine Gibson, who doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. So
That's
you know,
very sad.
Yeah.
Blaine Gibson, you need to up those numbers as
Yeah.
far as the Wikipedia page is concerned.
Yeah,
Those are rookie numbers.
Blake Gibson is an in-house Rooster Teeth person,
Mhm.
and he hasn't even been dragged into Ruby yet.
Damn.
which they could use. They could have, they should have had him
Yeah.
play Adam or something instead. But it's too late for that.
Oh,
yeah,
I don't think he was with the company back then.
Mm.
He
Still
does
too
have a
bad.
pretty good voice for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
he
would
sounded
totally
he
liked him
sounded
as Adam.
he sounded fine in this role. I think
Yeah.
better than those.
He had plenty of charisma, I thought, and he emoted well. He was able to pull off the cocky, surefire thing. That's kind of part of the reason that while I was watching it, I was like, oh, he's gonna pull off some crazy shit and escape, and then they're all gonna be like, holy shit, this dude, he's like so clever, because he had that going for him. He had like that cocksure attitude and that weird charisma that I thought, oh man, is this going to be like the main bad guy of the whole thing? But I guess Blaine Gibson should just kill himself because he's not, like, seriously, consider suicide.
Well,
Blaine
now
Gibson.
they've fragged both of the better in-house Rooster Teeth talents already, and then Miles, they're giving him weird direction because there's some good moments with Miles' voice acting. Like I said, like I don't think Miles is a bad voice actor. I like the connection he has with Chase.
It's basically your complaint boils down to pick an accent with him.
Yeah, pick an accent. Just one. It's fine. Like I don't care. Just do it is off-putting. Like you do notice, and you kind of it takes you out of the experience. It's really the only complaint I have.
So like we do get some other stuff on the other characters a little bit. The one Hispanic lady with the weird accent, we learned that she was a former member of the Union but got kicked out for being too brown, presumably.
Well, she's not supposed to be Hispanic. She's supposed to be Middle Eastern. She's Iranian. It says in the wiki.
Whatever.
Yeah.
She's an a former Iranian fighter pilot.
They're all desert-dwelling weirdos to me. And
Hey,
I think
not
that's
all
why
of Mexico is a desert. A lot of it is jungle and shit.
and mountains too.
Yeah, and I'm also part Guatemalan. That's all jungle and shit. All right, that is not desert, dude.
yeah. Well,
doesn't matter.
Either way, she was a former member of the Union.
Yeah.
We're probably going to get some shit about that later.
Of course.
But she's changed her ways. She's gone over to the side of justice with the polity and the vanguard and such things like that. We don't really get any backstory, much in the way of backstory.
No, I mean the Iranian thing is on Wikipedia. That's how I found some of this shit. Like it doesn't.
Wasn't it like in the trailers? It's implied that she was like a prisoner of war or something.
She was a prisoner in the Mesa Detention Center.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is. That's another weird thing about the show is they give you this whole thing about giving you. How do we know this information, even though it wasn't in the show? That's kind of weird to me, honestly.
Yeah. But then we have the rest of the stuff that we learn about some of the other characters is more through inference. So probably the best and worst scene at the same time, as far as character-wise, I would say, would be the one where retarded spy gets killed. And that is because David Tennant's character shows off that his character is completely ruthless and does not give a fuck about human life, as you should. Is just like,
and he's
right,
fucking calm as shit
ass.
under pressure and doesn't give a shit about anything. He's fucking joking
He's like,
with the
hook
guy
his
all
ass
the time.
up. There's like a 99.99% chance that he's going to die from this. There's no fucking way. I'm rolling the dice.
David Tennant says things of like, what is your plan? How do you plan on getting out?
Oh, I love the way he's just fucking with his brain like.
David Tennant was bait posting. He was bait posting the entire time during that whole
my God,
thing.
he totally fucking
He
was.
was bait posting.
That whole scene.
What would happen if I stole this mech?
That whole scene.
Well, so I want to.
Painful.
That whole scene made me upset at the show because the guy's plan was dumb, and that made me really upset. Like, how was that supposed to be dramatic when it's very obvious that he's gonna die? That's really lame. But it also made me love David Tennant's character even more, because he's fucking with the guy the whole time. He doesn't give a shit if he dies, and two, he's ruthless as shit, and it's great. I love that, like, that cold smile he gives when the guy dies. It's like, yes, I love this. Thank you, David Tennant.
And that's the whole thing. See, what I wanted to happen in regards to Spy Guy that never will, that really won't, like, ideally, what would have happened is that this would have been so awesome, guys. When I describe it to you, you're gonna be like freaked out. But Spy Guy gets in the fucking shit. He is actually Genlock compatible. Holy fuck, how the fuck did that happen? David Tennant's character is like, what the fuck? I totally thought he would die. Bam, he gets put in the mech. Somehow they have the spy network that the Union has is good enough that they've already figured out who's Genlock compatible and stuff, and they sent this spy specifically for that purpose. Then Union stormtroopers bust into the facility. They take his body out and the mech with them. Now the Union's got a big ass mech. Now the Union's got, like, their Spy Guy is still, like, available and alive and stuff, and he's also Genlock
And then the
compatible.
story ends because the good guys were defeated.
Well, no, but it would have made the Union, like, such a huge threat. It would have set up, like I said, a cool villain potentially. It would have been like, oh man, these guys can be anywhere. They already know all of our shit, and they've already got, like, our most advanced technology too. Like, as it stands now, in terms of the power dynamic, yeah, the Union is still, like, crushing it, but, like, I want them to be really just beating down on the good guys at this point in the story.
I agree and disagree with you on that point. So
maybe they should do that more closer to the middle. Maybe that's something.
So my disagreement is that the way you have that come about is a little far-fetched, in my opinion.
It is.
So I don't like that, but the result I do like, because I do agree that it's kind of weird in that the Union is supposed to seem like they're like winning, but it doesn't really feel like it, because we
have only seen them lose up to this point.
Yeah, exactly. They won because they called for a retreat, but Chase was able to stop their nanotechnology.
Yeah.
And then we see them lose in the other fight once the Holons come, and then we see the other guy, the Spy Guy, lose because he's a dumbass. So far, I'm not really scared of the Union right now. So I agree that in the result of your idea, like, I like that because I don't feel scared of them. I this whole time I felt like the fact that they even have an EMP thingy that can disable the nanotechnology is like, should they have that? Like, that seems overpowered. Like, and wouldn't you be able to find other ways of implementing
just little robots?
Yeah, and wouldn't you find other ways of implementing that? Couldn't you have, like, a gun that, like, just shoots energy out, like a mini EMP thing that could kill them? Like, it seems really obvious that the
EMPs set up all over your cities as nanite countermeasures, and just set them off like that instead of having a missile you have to fire through a plane.
It just feels like it seems
we'll
like
have
the
a
nanites
wall to keep the nanites out and make the Union pay for it.
Fuck yeah!
Like, why is it that the nanites are so easily defeated and yet they're supposed to be scary? I don't understand that. That's one of the problems I have. So yeah, it would be nice if the Union felt like more of a threat right now, and they don't.
Well, the nanites were scary for, like, a little bit when they were eating people's flesh and stuff.
Yeah, but you don't get to see it. It also would have been better if I got to see that shit.
You do see it. We actually do see them eating the flesh of a human being.
Yeah, you see the bone.
Yeah.
From the hand wherever he's like, ah!
Oh.
Yeah.
Was it so poorly animated that I didn't notice? Because I watched it.
It's only there for like a few frames.
Yeah.
I'm not even into gore, but I would have liked it to be a little bit more overt than that.
So here's the other thing too. Like, I kind of want to roll this back just a little because we kind of skipped over something. So
sure.
They all get in their Gundam mech bodysuits.
Yes.
Which also happen to be like power armor too, that have their own little mini supercomputers in them. So we see Japanese rockstar man charge at the spy and just tumble over himself. Somber follows after him, and hacker girl lady immediately starts hacking to try to, like, undo whatever hacker man bullshit spy man was doing in the process. Yeah. And then we have a cool fist fight between Iranian lady and spy man, and they're just like beating the shit out of each other the entire time.
It looks like a
because-
Monty coordinated red versus blue fight a little bit.
And yet,
Yeah,
and
no,
again,
it does give RBB like fist fight vibes too.
That,
also,
that
and I'm
scene
sitting-
when like Tex is just like beating the shit out of everybody.
yeah,
And to as something that's going to come up, we have yet again another Rooster Teeth show in which the characters have little mini protective force fields around their bodies while they're fighting.
That's true. For those who don't know, Ruby has something called
God damn
Aura.
it, Aura.
Yeah, has something called Aura, where basically even if you get shot, you don't actually take damage from it unless your aura runs out and then you get
Calling
shot.
it right now, there will never be a Rooster Teeth like serious action show that does not have some form of force field in it. Never going to happen. Not once in your life.
I think you're right. No, I completely agree with that.
Because apparently they've decided that that is the best ethos that a fight scene can possibly have, is if there's a little bit of a force field there.
I think it's just more that it just makes things easier for him. It's a lazy way out kind of thing.
It's like a condom for a fight scene.
The thing is, though, so far this makes more sense than Semblance does from Ruby, because at least like okay, there's clearly a suit they're wearing. At least that makes more sense than the bullshit that is Aura.
When you get shot with the thing, it kind of still hurts you a
Yes,
little bit.
that's what I like too. Is like he still obviously felt it, so maybe if they used a bigger bullet,
it was like,
it might have
ow.
actually done more. So that's why I'm generally not against that. It's kind of okay, and it does give them
They
sort of.
need to
I
have
feel
a
like-
way for guns to be completely useless, and
I
that's
feel well,
This
this
is
is
that
what I
way.
like about the whole suits thing too. Also, is it's like okay, we're obviously gonna have like mechs fighting and doing the shooty bang bang, but it's also like we're also just gonna maybe have the pilots out and about, and they have to like punch some dudes and throw people through walls.
Yeah.
So now they've got it to where like, oh, this person was like, maybe they're good at fighting, but you can only expect a 120-pound lady to throw someone so far, but they got the power suit now. And it's implied that the Russian lady or Ukrainian lady, depending on which history we're in, it's like was an
it's
assassin.
the one
so
where
it's
Russia
like-
gets the Ukraine.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
it's like
I'm
it's
gonna
implied that
I'm gonna
she's
go with Ukrainian forever just to piss off the Russians, because
I hope beyond hope that eventually we get to see manga Putin in all of his glory.
oh my god,
Come
that would be amazing.
just Mecha Putin.
Mecha Putin.
is still in charge.
No,
of,
not even a mecha
Soviet-
Putin. He would just be shirtless and riding a tiger.
But I mean, the point is that he's still running Russia 50
Yes.
years from now.
yeah.
Nano machines, son.
I do because the thing with the suits is like okay, it's like it gives them the flexibility of like okay, we're gonna have like not all the action's gonna be inside the mech blowing shit up.
Hmm.
They're actually gonna be running around in the suits doing shit, which is nice.
Yeah, I like that too.
I mean, we basically covered the episode.
Yep.
I mean,
And
if we have any thoughts
Yeah.
we want to get out, we might as well air our grievances.
I
while we're
already
at it.
I already aired
Yeah.
all my things out like an hour ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
so-
big thing was the voice acting / characterization of the pilots.
Yeah,
That's
and
my biggest
my-
issue right now.
My complaints were basically all having to do with episode 2 and the poor plot choices it made and the
Yeah.
shitty drama for drama's sake shit going on with Chase Blackman's girlfriend.
I mean, despite all of that, I'm still cautiously optimistic for the show. I definitely don't hate it. I thought I was gonna hate it. I really, honestly did. I thought this
I
was
really
gonna be
don't.
absolute
These
dog
are-
shit. And it's
These
not.
are all very easily solvable issues
Yes.
that we're bringing up, and like if they solve them, that's always been a little bit of a thing with Rooster Teeth.
Yeah.
But cautiously optimistic. I'm not going to be a
Yeah.
negative Nancy, as it were.
Yeah.
I will say that, like if you've got an all-star cast, got like if you can bring in some decent direction for them, because I'm pretty sure that's most likely all that's missing. If
Yeah.
you can, kind of tighten up that script a little bit, like I said, give the Union a face, give give them some nuance, some like actual like good motivations, not the shit that I've been told, like, or at least put a little bit of a spin on that to make it better. Like, I don't, you know, you might have the makings of a pretty decent show here, and you know, like that's all really that anybody could ask.
I will say this is like my closing statements for this podcast. For me right now, Genlock is somewhere in between. It's not amazing, and it's definitely not bad.
Mhm.
But I do not know where in that broad range Genlock is going to fall, and it will take me probably, I'd say, till like episode 5. Do we have confirmation of how many episodes we're going to be getting,
8.
or is that?
Eight, I believe.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's like British TV, like
It's
levels
like
of stuff
British-
there.
It
We're
is.
already we are
they
already a quarter of the way through. This is
Yeah.
going to be.
They probably could not convince David Tennant to do more than 8. That's probably why. Ugh.
So
I
it's
think it had more to do with the fact that
30 minutes.
Gray was adamant about them having a very consistent
Yeah.
time for each episode, 22 minutes each, which is something that
I swear to God, they're
I
trying to
thought
get this thing on Adult Swim.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say this. Despite making up only 13% of the total number of Genlock episodes we're going to be getting, these 2 episodes account for 50% of my enjoyment of Genlock. So,
It was all right. There's promise. There's potential here. There's more potential than I was expecting. So as of now, I'm actually watching it out of interest rather than irony, and I'm happy to say that. I guess that's my takeaway right now. At least there's 2 characters that I'm interested in right now, being Macy Williams and David Tennant. I forget their actual characters' names, but the voice actors are actually interesting and are doing a good job. And I hope that Julian Chase's family is still alive. Does mom's name? Whatever. I hope they're still alive because I liked them and that dynamic between.
I hope his mom's dead, but his sister is still alive.
I definitely, if there's one,
Or vice versa.
if there's one to still be alive, I'd actually prefer the sister. But
Yeah, the mom.
Because then you get both
I
of the
prefer the mom.
motivations like you were talking about.
I'd still prefer them both
you
be
get
alive just because I'd like to
Chase is
see
pissed
that.
off that his mom's dead, or whatever, and you also get Chase wants to keep the rest of his family intact. That's like both of the motivations that Media
Yeah.
was talking about before, all combined into.
Yeah.
You could also just
holistic
have the
unit.
Union had killed his dad already or some shit like that, and then you could already have that. Plus you have plus you could have the 2 established characters still alive. Just because
Or
I like that
maybe his
dynamic
dad
and
is in charge of the Union.
oh, insert Full Metal Alchemist thing here or whatever, or Star
I don't
Wars
fucking know.
whatever else there's that the Avatar: The Last Airbender with Fire Lord Zuko or all that shit, where the parent is actually the bad guy. Wow, there's actually a lot of that where the parent's the bad guy and the kid is a hero or the hero. Now that I'm thinking about it.
That wasn't a serious suggestion, by the way.
No, I know, but I'm just
I
I was not expecting to be able to rattle off 3 answers to that right away. I did not.
Yeah. So,
But
so
anyway.
are we ready?
We're
to
shutting
wrap
it
up?
down.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost 2 hours. We're almost at
Alright.
2 hours, so.
Yeah, if we're
alright.
gonna shut it off, I'm just gonna like say the N word real quick.
No.
So
No,
No. No.
Or Media's gonna have to cut that out.
I can't.
Don't tell him that!
I literally just upload these straight from freaking Google Drive.
Yeah. By the way, people, if you like me, I'm actually going to be a regular on this cast if we continue to do so. So, fucking smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, smash all the underage women you can get your hands on.
God.
Oh
Do
no!
all the and get and watch as we just demonetize the shit out of all of these.
What do you mean we? What do you mean we? What do you mean
You're
we?
complicit.
All right, we're done.
I'm the one being directly affected by this. If you like this video and you want to see more, subscribe to me.
And
because this is
especially
my
donate to
fucking
his
channel.
Patreon.
Yeah, and definitely donate to my Patreon because these are not going to make as much money as my videos. Watch my Ruby I have a lot of Ruby content. I have a lot of other content that I'm trying to be making. I have a One Piece video I did earlier this week. This is actually the 4th video out of 6 videos I'm making in the span of a week.
Yep.
Yeah, because I have a stream. I'm streaming. I'm finally getting back to streaming Spider-Man on Friday, which will be tomorrow by the time you're watching this, and then the finale review on Saturday, and then after that I'm not going to do anything other than like maybe a stream or podcast until Valentine's Day. That's when I'll be releasing my big Valentine's Day special. All my free time is basically going to be working on that and working through Kingdom Hearts 3 because I got that game and it's pretty rad so far. I wish they would shut up and let me play the actual game more.
Common.
Anyway, also consider reading my fanfiction Rubyond and also the Just Act series.
Just act.
It's a thing that I do. I don't know why, but I do it. I just can't help it. It's just full Phoebe in Wonderland moment there.
He has an unnatural compulsion.
Yeah. It's basically yeah. And that's all I have to plug.
I have nothing to plug. Yeah, I was thinking. Watch Genesis this weekend. Watch Melee. It's amazing. It's the best esport to watch ever. That'll be on. Actually, it's gonna be on Twitch somewhere. Just you'll find it. That's the only thing I have to plug. It's not even me, but. And that's it.
Right,
I think.
let's shut it down. We're
All
done.
right, we'll see you guys. We'll at least be
See
here
ya,
next
guys.
week, I think. So we'll see.
Sometime.
We'll see how episode 3 is. So
I am very much down.
long. Oh wait, I pressed the wrong button. I pressed exit instead of stop recording. Okay,
Oh,
now
no.
we're